to another live coaching call. We host these every Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 1:30 Eastern time. And we have Qasim back. Welcome back, Qasim. You were gone for a little while. Happy to see you again.
Happy to be back.
Good. And then we have the lovely Liz and Izzy from Transparent Classroom. We are so excited to welcome you two. And we have a lot of people excited to hear about what Transparent Classroom is and all the amazing things you offer Montessorians. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you and give us a quick intro.
Okay, great. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Liz. I'm really excited that we were invited to join you guys today. And I'm going to start us off and talk about Transparent Classroom in general, but also some of the ways that I use it as a primary guide when I was teaching and how it fits into your workflow. And then Izzy's going to show you some other things as well. And do you want to introduce yourself now?
Yeah, and my name's Izzy. I'm also part of the Transparent Classroom customer team.
So before I joined Transparent Classroom about a year ago, I worked at a school as an admin and as an adolescent guide and also as a primary guide, well, over the time that I worked there. And the first part of the time that I worked in the classroom, I used a paper record keeping system. And I would really love to be able to tell you that it was awesome and I did a really good job record keeping, but that would be a lie. I tried really hard, but it ended up being all these stacks of paper with different notes on them and different things with different children. And it was really hard for me to see what I had recorded. So I didn't go back to it much because, sometimes I did define specific things, but most of my planning came from observation, which is great. But also it was hard for me to see what was going on outside of my own subjective observations and collaboration with with my assistant teacher. And so when we started using Transparent Classroom, at first I just used it for recording lessons. And then I realized that there are some other tools in it that could be really helpful. And so I'm sharing my screen now. And so we're going to look at some of those tools and how you might use them in Transparent Classroom, but also what you could do in your classroom without Transparent Classroom that might be similar. So this page that we're looking at now is the home page. And if you're familiar with Transparent Classroom, this is kind of where you go when you first log in. And we have a lot of different record keeping and lesson planning tools. And I think one of the most important things to know about those tools is that they're all connected. So in Transparent Classroom, you can enter observations and presentations into the platform in several different ways. But no matter which way you do it, they're going to be across the whole platform. You can find them on any of the record keeping and lesson planning pages. So for instance, if I typed them in, I might do that on the activity page here. And I could type in a quick observation. Let's see, maybe today Mika presented the Pink Tower. Maybe Mika also did some food prep today. So use the @ to find Mika, and maybe he practiced. Let's see. Maybe he practiced. I thought there would be banana slicing, but I might have just removed it this morning. Tea. Maybe he practiced making tea. And I could save that, and that's going to be, typical Mika making tea. It's going to be across the whole platform. I can also see that as an overview for the whole class on the progress and plan page, where we're in the observation section now, but if we move over to practical life, we can see all of our practical life lessons and how each child is progressing with those. And we can expand and contract the different groups to see what's going on. We can also record from this page. This is also where we could plan lessons if we wanted to, and save those to put them on our lesson plan.
And I noticed you applied one setting to multiple children at a single time, which it
did. Yes.
Amazing. Yes, so you don't have to go one at a time. You get to kind of make global sweeping changes.
You can, yeah. So you could go one at a time, especially if, in primary, maybe most of your lessons are one-on-one with children. But if you're updating your records or if you presented something to multiple children, you can just click and drag. So if I'm updating from last year and I know they all practiced that, I can go right ahead and do it.
Oh, wow. And you can do it across and down.
Yeah, cross and down, any way you like. And what's really neat is if we go over into language, so you're doing the same paper letters and you're presenting them maybe 3 at a time, and you need to know which ones you've already done. And maybe you keep, traditionally I keep those on a little, like a little index card for each child, and I would circle the ones that I had done and, put a check through the ones that were, had a successful third period. But sometimes I would lose those index cards or not fill them out, things like that. So your option here, if we go into writing in the single sandpaper letters, if I want to open up this record for Mika and see all of my notes and the letters that he's been practicing on, I can do that here as well. So if I'm just typing in what they've been doing, I can always see that and find it. And any other guides in my classroom, if we're a bilingual classroom or we're a large classroom with a junior guide or a co-teacher, we can see what each other has been working on. So that's kind of how you might record information and view it. We also have these lesson plans, which are great because you can print them out. So what I used to do is make a lesson plan, print it out, keep it with me in my apron pocket or on my clipboard, take notes on it, and then come and enter in the information later. This layout you can click and drag to plan things for a certain day, but my favorite is this child boxes layout. I think it'll look familiar to some of you because basically it's what I learned to do in my training, but with pencils and rulers. And what's nice here, you can add lessons directly if you're going to do the
Oh wait, I think we lost you, Liz.
So Liz, we've got you on mute, I think, because we lost Izzy. So you might want to unmute your computer.
Okay, can you guys hear me again now?
Yes, got you back.
Great. I'm sorry, I was speaking through Izzy's audio, and it seems like she lost her connection. Sorry about that. So she's going to log back in. We'll have her back in a minute. Don't worry. But that was kind of just a really quick overview of kind of what planning looks like and record keeping in Transparent Classroom. So maybe you're doing this in Transparent Classroom. Maybe you're doing this on paper. Maybe you have a Excel spreadsheet system that you've created. What I'd like to talk about next is how you get the information out of those. And so for me, it was really hard to get information out of my paper record keeping system. I had all the records, but I couldn't find what I was looking for. And I didn't really know what I was looking for. So an example might be, maybe there's a child in my class who is 5 or so, and they've been with me for most of the cycle. So they started when they were about 3. And I'm starting to feel worried that they aren't starting to read. It's not happening spontaneously, and I'm not seeing the signs in my observations that I would expect. And part of my preparation as the guide is to look at myself and to look at the environment and to look at the group of children and try to figure out, like, is something going on? But it's really hard to look at yourself and look at your practice. And it's hard to know what to look for when you do that. And so one tool that I really enjoyed were these internal reports. We have several of them. First, we'll look at this child lessons by area. And when we go here, we can see, sorry, I'm zoomed in so that the font isn't too small, but it makes it so you can't see quite everything. But it's going to show all the children in your classroom and then how many lessons they have had or lessons they've been tagged with by area per week for the last month. So when I looked at this, I could see, oh, well, like, it makes sense that they're maybe not reading because I've only been giving them math lessons. And it's not that they can't do it, and it's not that they haven't had all the indirect preparations and the direct preparations. It's that we're not focusing on it right now. And maybe I'm choosing math lessons because I love the math lessons. I think they're great. And something about me loving them makes the child love them too. But that also means that if I'm not loving the language lessons and I'm not presenting them as much, then the child isn't loving them as much either. So this is a nice tool to be able to reflect on how you're distributing lessons across the areas. If we look at child lessons over time, we get similar information, but it's going to show all the lessons each child has received per week over the last 6 months. So we can see here that Mika's had a lot of lessons, 67 in total. These are all pretend children, so the numbers don't always make a ton of sense. But then if we scroll down, we see Emily only has 4. And like, it looks like maybe she just joined us. But then what's up with Alice? Well, maybe she just joined us too. But then what's going on up here? Maybe they've been on vacation. Maybe they've been out sick. Or maybe I haven't been spending as much time with them because they've been doing independent work, or because they're one of those kids that's just quiet and happy and slips under the radar. A new report that we've recently added is a report we call the equity report. And let's see, we're just going to look at gender right now. But you can choose a period of time and then choose different socioeconomic status markers. And you can see how many lessons on average you've planned per child and how many you've recorded per child based on these markers. So we can see that, you know, this is not accurate information. This is data that we've manufactured for our demo school. But in this particular circumstance, you can see that the males, the children that identify as male in the classroom are receiving more lessons than the children that don't identify as a gender, or more likely, or potentially that I just haven't added a gender in for in the system yet, and the children that identify as female. And it looks like they all have similar amounts of planned lessons, but I'm getting to those males more often. And so, then you have the opportunity to reflect on why that might be. And there are, I'm sure, an infinite number of reasons why, but having the data to help fuel your self-reflection can really mean a lot in the classroom. And you're not having to count or do any extra information to get, or extra work to get this information. You just go to the report section. So I guess check in to see if there are any questions about what we've talked about so far. And then I'm gonna switch it over to Izzy.
Melissa's
We've got
asking.
one question from
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nido.
She asks, is the data preloaded, or does the user have to input all the jobs?
That's a great question. So it sounds like there that you're asking kind of about maybe how the lessons are added to Transparent Classroom. So in Transparent Classroom, we do have a default lesson set for primary and elementary, and we have kind of drafts of lesson sets for infant, toddler, and adolescent. And those lesson sets right now are based on an AMI curriculum and program, but they are really easy to customize. So you'll have a master lesson set here in lessons, and this one's been modified a lot because this is where we show people how they can modify their lesson set.
There's some funny lessons in there.
So there are some amusing lessons in there because we like to have fun. But you'll have areas in your lesson set, and then each area will be made up of groups of lessons. And it's really easy to add new ones. So if we did want to add that banana slicing, we can just come in here and add it. And as soon as we save, it's ready for record keeping. You could also archive lessons that you're not going to use, or rename lessons. So if we're not doing orange aid, we're doing lemonade, I can just come in here and change that. Let's see, we're going to spell it right. There we go. And it's updated across the whole platform. Does that answer your question, Melissa? Yes. Okay, great.
And I just wanted to point out, as a former guide, how helpful these tools are, because every guide, no matter how long you've been in it, comes to a point where you're like, I have so much information that I need to gather, collect, and interpret, and also share, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, how we do parent communication. But all of that, if you're not sure how to do it, it can take hours in a day to gather all that information. So can you talk a little bit about how that's brought some time down, like planning time? It's probably a lot less than if you're recording on paper, and talk a little bit about that.
Totally, yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. So what I used to do is I would sit down and add lessons to my lesson plan on Friday, most of the time, depends. And And any lessons that I hadn't got to that week would still be there. So I would just add any new ones in that I needed. And then I would print this out and have it with me the rest of the week and then modify it as the days went by. And so it probably took me 15 minutes a day and then 30 minutes to an hour once a week. But what's really nice is going back to that integration. So anything that I enter on a record keeping page in a different part of the platform is going to update all the pages. So if I record that Mary has had the trinomial cube on a different part of Transparent Classroom, it will be automatically removed from my lesson plan. And the same is true for a photo. So if we go back to the activity page and we go check out our untagged photos, let's see what's here. Oh, great. So I'm going to take this picture of Mark. I'm going to use the @ sign to find his name, and then it looks like he practiced the binomial. And I could add more notes, but I'm happy with that, and I'm going to save it. And when I save that, a couple of things are going to happen. Mark's progress is going to be updated as practiced with this lesson, and this photo is going to be saved to his profile. But also, if your school has chosen to invite parents to Transparent Classroom, this photo and the narrative comment will be shared with his parents based on their notification settings. So by email or by text message, or if they have our app, they'll get a notification through the app. And then if they want to, they can always click on that lesson name to go to the lesson reference page and read more about what Mark was doing at school. And these pages come with the lesson set. You can also modify them, but they're geared towards parents. So it's not going to be, the technical language that's in your album, but it is going to be geared towards parent education.
Okay, this is super cool. Can you imagine getting this? So like your 4-year-old is working with the binomial cube, and then you get an explanation of what it truly is, which the binomial cube is a phenomenal Montessori material. Yeah. There's so much in it. And as a former elementary guide, I always get really excited when I see 3- and 4-year-olds working with it. But can you imagine getting that in your inbox and just like reading through that and being like, wow.
It's fantastic. Amazing. Yeah. And what's really nice too is that it saves the guides from, especially in the situation for like table washing or any of the practical life work that's cleaning, from writing that paragraph in an email again and again and again about why they send their child to a fancy Montessori school and they just clean all day.
Right.
It's already there for them, and they can it's pretty easily discoverable. But what's nice too is this happens in the conference reports too. So depending on what kind of conference reports you want to use, you can. It's really easy to generate. Let's go check out Nico's page. It's really easy to generate a conference report that's going to have a lesson list with the child's proficiencies, and parents can click on the lesson names directly from the conference report to go to that lesson reference page. And there are lots of different kinds of reports that you can generate. These are all samples. But if we take a look at this one, which is one of our sample templates, and it looks like Nika maybe hasn't received quite as many lessons lately. Sometimes it happens when you're a pretend child.
Tough life as a pretend child.
But this information, and sorry, it's a little messed up because I'm zoomed in, but we're going to have his basic information pulled at the top and his attendance, and then you can see which lessons he's been working on in this, and it'll say his level of progress. We just updated our levels of progress, and it's, anyway, because he's pretend, these things sometimes happen. But again, they can click here. So if we want to see what is the pink tower again, the parents can click on it directly from the conference report.
Awesome. Yeah. So I've got a question just about parent communication. What are the capabilities inside Transparent Classroom? How much information can the parent get? And is it possible for schools to kind of scale it down so they don't have basically a fly on the wall view of your work in the classroom too? Because there is, sometimes we want to make sure we protect the classroom and the way that it's working. So I guess that's two questions, right? One is, what is the capability in the communication side of parenting? And then does the admin have the capability of turning that off and limiting it?
Yeah, so thanks, Liz, for showing us around all that stuff.
That was a lot really quick.
Yeah, that was a lot really quick. So you can absolutely customize what you share with parents. And it's really important to us that a school gets to share what's useful to them. So if sharing photos is what your parent community really cares about, and that's what gets the buy-in, then share those photos. And if it's learning about Montessori, maybe your parent community is like super curious, then tag the photos with lessons. But you can share as much or as little as you choose. It's also really important to be able to sort of candidly make notes on the child's progress. And so finding that balance between what sharing, like how sharing will build trust and investment from your parent community, versus like how I can serve the child, is always a really important balancing act that we take into consideration here. We have this page called Parent Access that lets you customize what you choose to share, kind of on a broad level. You can also choose to share or not share individual records. So as you're doing your record keeping, you get to decide.
Okay. Would you mind walking us through how that works? I'm just curious.
Totally. So the classroom that Liz is in right now, the primary classroom, everything is shared by default, like a highly transparent classroom. Pardon the fun. However, if you want to make a record that you don't want to share with parents, you'll create it as normal and then check the private box and then click save. Alternatively, you could go the other direction. So in our elementary classroom, all of the records are not shared by default. But if you made a record that was exceptional in some way and you wanted to share that with parents, you could uncheck the private box. And then when you click save, they would receive a notification.
Mm-hmm.
And does that answer your question?
Yeah. It's
awesome.
So when you're putting something in, you're able to decide to share it or not. It isn't necessarily attached to the template that you previously created.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really sort of case-by-case basis, using your own judgment. So like, what will be beneficial to me right now?
Sure.
And we have a lot of schools that they make up rules like, okay, we want, one photo a month or one photo per week per child. And then they hand over our mobile app to an assistant, and the assistant starts taking pictures of children at work. And then at the end of the day, a guide comes back and then tags those photos. And that's like a really common sort of like low investment way to get your parents involved in what their child is doing and make them feel connected to your classroom, which, is really, I think, really important to a successful Montessori classroom.
Sure. Yeah. Is there a view where you can see what parents have seen? So just kind of a parent engagement focus.
Yeah, so Liz is going to log on to the parent view for me. As an administrator, in your account, you can log in as any of the other staff or parent users so that you can see what they see. So, for example, in the upper left, we've got a to-do column. This has all of the forms that parent, that are waiting for the parent to fill out. And then to the right, there's a digest of all of the children's activity that has been shared with that parent. At the very top, we see that tea lesson. And then to the left, in that black menu, parents can click on an individual child's profile in order to see a more detailed view of what they've been doing, any past conference reports, forms, photos, the works. And then additionally, outside of the parent view, which we don't have to leave now, we also have a directory that helps you manage sort of your parent contact lists. So it's really easy to send out an email to all of your toddler families, sort of in like one click.
Sure. Can you speak a little bit about the other capabilities that Transparent Classroom has? I know we've talked a lot about record keeping, parent communication of what your child is doing. Are there any other things that can be a benefit to Montessori schools as they look at advancement?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's really two important benefits to a Montessori school that we are providing in Transparent Classroom, but I think that are just important generally, which is reflection on the guide's part, the spiritual preparation of the guide, from sort of an outside perspective, which comes from this data. Also, the preparation of Montessori in general to be presented to a broader audience having data is super helpful. And as an online company, we do aggregate that and make compelling data-driven arguments for broad adoption of Montessori. So that's kind of one component, is like keeping Montessori like super tight. The other component is making sure that your community feels connected and that like information is flowing easily. So we also have a number of online form tools. You can manage your enrollment process through Transparent Classroom, sort of seamlessly have parents enroll in your website, manage your wait list through Transparent Classroom, and accept them using the information they've already entered directly into your account. Then once they're in your account, you can start assigning them electronic forms for things like as simple as incident reports. So I can draw up an incident report, Abner scraped his knee on the playground, but I don't have to send that report home with a 7-year-old and wonder if that report will ever come back signed. It just goes straight to the parent's email. And then you can also assign things as sort of like as important as enrollment. You can collect ethnicity, household income through Transparent Classroom and store that all in the child's profile. And that moves with them from year to year. So you don't have to keep asking your parents for the same information over and over again.
So when you talk about admissions, are you integrating with another CRM that's pulling that information into this child's profile? Or is there another capability inside Transparent Classroom where admissions directors can use this for applications and even enrollment contracts?
Absolutely, yeah. So basically you can design an online application through Transparent Classroom and host it on your website or email it out, whatever your workflow is. Parents will fill that out and then the information is in sort of like a mini CRM within Transparent Classroom.
Okay, awesome. Is that what we're looking at right here?
Yes. Yeah, so what we're looking at right now is sort of a visualization of sort of your classroom broken out by gender, language, or age, gender, and dominant language. This is designed to help schools that have multiple classrooms balance those demographics. Yeah, if they need to do that.
Sure. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's really neat too about the application is if you have prospective families fill it out, the information will show up here, like Izzy was saying. But then you have the option to accept the child from here, and all that information that they put into the application will be used to generate their profile in Transparent Classroom, so you won't have to manually enter it.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of from there, we hope to just like create, this child and family entity, and then make it really easy for you to carry them through your school during the whole, 8+ years that they're there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Is there a way to create something that's not necessarily an application to your school, but more of an inquiry where it's almost like a lead and then they transform into an application? So it's the lead intake process. Do you have that capability as well?
I would say that you can either use our applications as a lead intake or as an application. I wouldn't choose to use them as both, but I have seen schools do it. Basically, the only reason you wouldn't use it as a lead intake is that you can only accept one application per child. Mm-hmm. So you can't have multiple applications funneling into one child's profile. So you just want to make sure that it makes sense basically either to lose the information that you've gathered in the lead and then just have them put it in again in an application, or pick one or the other. Additionally, you can download all of the information you collect as a CSV. So you can still keep that sort of lead spreadsheet if you want.
I see. So if there's a couple, sorry, Liz. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say you can take notes here too. So if they come in as a lead and then you want to say that they came and toured the school, you can add in additional notes here and keep those.
Melissa Campbell's asking, does it have the capability to accept application fees?
So we wouldn't process the fee through Transparent Classroom, but you could definitely add a PayPal button into the application.
So that means you'd be able to keep track of who's paid, but you're not actually doing the merchant processing through Transparent Classroom.
Yes, we don't do any sort of merchant processing.
I know that you had originally scheduled about 30 minutes, and I want to make sure that we're not cutting into your guys' time.
We don't mind going over, especially when it's good. And this is really good. I have to be honest, I'm blown away. Like, this is unbelievably in depth.
We've been building this platform for like 8 years.
Yeah, you can tell. I sort of, when we first spoke, I thought it was just a database application, you know, like supersized Excel built for Montessorians. But I mean, this is a decision engine. It helps you drive. You know, that's really, really impressive. What you built here, I think, is really special.
Yeah, I think so one of the questions I think Montessori professionals often find themselves asking sort of at the macro level as they're interacting with children is like, what do I do next? And we've taken that question and just applied it everywhere. Like, how can we make it easier for you to say, this is what I do next?
Yeah. So I'm a Montessori parent. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And the thing that just sold me instantly was in the first 5 minutes when you said, you have data and you can see what lessons my children have been put through and then where their proficiency is sort of ranked. I guess I'm using the wrong words, but that resonates so much because now you can actually tell, like, you have a tangible action item there instead of just, oh, I feel like teaching math today. It's, oh no, Sammy needs this. Yeah, I love that. I'm actually going to go to the school and I'm going to say, are you using this tool? Because if you're not, then you have to. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and just sort of knowing, I'm always fascinated in my own life when I see myself reacting as opposed to responding. And it often takes, like, you know, super close friends to help me understand myself. And maybe I don't always have that time or sort of depth of relationship to get that kind of reflection from outside of myself. So I'm always really excited when I find tools that help me reflect on my own actions because, you know, they're super important. You're affecting the future, our future, by educating children. So hopefully we're helping people make good choices.
Absolutely. Well, and we all want the same thing, right? We want Montessori for every child. And I think this is a massive step in that direction. I also love, just as a data nerd, you're going to end up with some amazing information about impact.
Yep.
And what it is that Montessori is doing for people.
You have cool information about impact.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's really exciting for us as we grow too, is getting able to partner with Montessori organizations like the National Center for Montessori in the Public Sector, and share ideas and share anonymized data so that we can help kind of contribute to the community, but also further the Montessori experiment.
How do schools get started? I know I'm on your website now. I see that you have a demo. Do you have a trial? I know your pricing is so clear. Tell me what the next step is.
So we always recommend that schools start with a demo because they get to connect with us and talk, kind of like we're talking now, and we can show them more. But sorry, we can do a little computer switch. There we go. But we do have a free trial. So we have a trial form that Izzy has pulled up that you can fill out, and it always comes with a free 30 days. So you can experiment with Transparent Classroom, see how it's going to work for your school, and you don't have to give us any payment information to do that. And then if you want to keep using Transparent Classroom, then you just add a billing method. And if you're not ready at the end of the trial or you're still not sure, that's totally fine. We'll hold your information for you, and you can always come back later to get started.
That's awesome. This is a self-serving question, but would you ever be receptive to creating any training on Transparent Classroom for our member base?
Oh yeah, totally.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd be very excited about that.
Yeah.
We'd love to have it. I mean, I think it would serve everybody. That's a win-win-win as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, this is amazing.
Thanks.
Any other questions from our members? Deneen, I sort of jumped in on there. I apologize. I bogarted your call.
No, it's good. It's an exciting tool, and I know you guys have grown so much, and I know that your clientele is growing too. I know we've got a few more minutes left, but can you speak about how schools different ways that you've seen schools implement this, you know, whether it's from just record keeping or it's this full on admin tool. What variations do you see schools use them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially in the first couple of years that we were starting up, we saw a lot of single classrooms adopting us, where guides were like, we just need to know what's happening in our record keeping, and I will pay for it out of pocket. I don't care. And then, you know, the progression has been very clearly that after a single classroom adopts it, usually the whole school adopts it. And at that point, after just a single classroom is used, it usually the admin team gets a little curious. They're kind of like, wait, it does what? And that too. So we do an admin demo, and then we start rolling out various features. And I would say like maybe 25% of our schools leverage like all of the admin features. Like I think another 25% leverage like 50%. And then there's another 50% of the schools that are like, we just need this for record keeping. And maybe they do some things like attendance and reporting through us, but they're not like doing all of the electronic forms, applications, management, immunization, standards, tracking. They're not doing all of that. So I think there's a pretty broad spectrum of school usage. And I think that like in all sort of like candid honesty, if you're a huge school or a public school, we're probably not the CRM for you. Like we specialize in record keeping and Montessori specific admin tools. And that typically has led us to drive development towards like focusing on schools that are like sort of small to mid-sized, and then like a few super large schools fit into our platform. And like you can definitely use us for just record keeping, but there's like some things that I know really large schools need that we just don't have yet.
Yeah, especially like if you're a massive school and you have to balance move-ups and prospective families for many classrooms rolling throughout the year, as well as enrollment and wait lists. If it's possible that you're going to want to pick the school for those specific tasks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. This has been incredibly informative. It makes me want to go back to the classroom and just use it. I wish I had this tool. I had another tool, but then, you know, I had 3 separate tools and sitting, you know, at night planning everything and taking all those tools together. I mean, this is a one-stop shop. So it's exciting that you are offering this. I know for you know, most of our members are administrators, so I hope they're excited about the capabilities, you know, with parent communication, but also conversations with your guides, you know, and having those regular check-ins of how the classroom's going, how are your interactions with the children and the parents going. So it opens up so much more through data, which of course we're huge advocates for.
Yeah. And like a high quality Montessori program, like it's obvious that you're doing your reflection, and like your classroom is normalized and it's captivating.
Yeah, and I think parents appreciate that, you know, and that's what they want. And I know as Montessori schools, we tend to get a bad reputation when it comes to communicating exactly what we do in our classrooms, right? We do a little bit of just trust us, and that doesn't always go well with a lot of parents. So it's good to have that data. It's good to also for them to know that you're checking in on that, you know, and you have it. The many moving pieces that are in your classroom, you've got it down. So this is such a great tool. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and as I'm just building on what you're saying, it's really interesting. A lot of the schools that we've talked with, and in my personal experience, happen to do this as well, that occasionally sharing photos with parents makes such a big difference in your like trust relationship. Mm-hmm. And I always think back to the Tao of Montessori and how she's talking about, you know, how parents can be really difficult sometimes and really painful. But then you look to the child that's in your classroom that you love, and then you see them look to their parents with love, and it's our responsibility to embrace the people that the child loves as well. And so this is a nice tool that makes that easy to do while doing your record keeping that you're doing anyway.
Right. It's because you're here for the child and in the child's best interest. And the parent has that same interest and motivation as you do. So putting those two together is beautiful. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Liz and Izzy, for taking time out of your busy day, busy schedule, for explaining all of this and giving us a tutorial on it. We would love to get a training on it. We've got some great courses in our members section that we offer, and we could add that in there. Qasim, is that kind of what you were thinking? In that
Yeah,
slot?
definitely, no question. I think that would be immense, and whatever we can do to help too. I think that y'all have a pretty distinct mission, and we have some members that could benefit from it. I think we're fishing in the same pond. So let us know where the synergy can exist, because we want to lean in.
Yeah, awesome. And if, I know people will be watching this later. If you guys have any questions, you can always email us at info@transparentclassroom.com, and we'll get back to you within one business day. Because sometimes your program's kind of specific, but we can answer those questions.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again, ladies. It was great having you on. Good to have you back, Qasim.
Good to be back. Feels good.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.